Mwah.
Tiffany, and I am just popping on quickly to share a couple examples of how to use our new ripped overlays. So Whitney actually made these overlays by hand, photographed them, so they are real paper. They're just overlays made with real paper to make your job and your life so much easier, like always. So I am just going to turn this stuff off, and this is what we started with. So you can photograph them on like a white backdrop, doing whatever you want them to do. I'm just taking photos that I already have edited just to show you how to do it. So it depends if you want the overlay just in front of them. Do you want them kind of popping out? That's why I chose this photo, to kind of have her arm kind of popping out. Do you want it behind them, in front of them? Like, it's totally up to you. So I'm going to show you a couple different options. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is hit select and subject. So I'm going to put a red overlay over this, and so with the hair here, I'm okay with it not being perfect, but I am going to hit Q because I don't want all of this. So I'm going to hit Q again, and I'm going to grab this with the minus, and I am going to bring this up. I don't want this. Okay, so now I need to grab the plus because I do want the belt to be kind of hanging over. All right, now I'm going to hit Q again, and I'm going to grab my brush, and I've got a black brush, and I'm just going to, whoop, I went onto her finger, so I'm going to have to fix that. I'm trying to do this quickly in an effort to save time, but this is another way that you can mask your subject, is just by using your brushes. All right, I'm going to switch it to a white brush and take this off because we don't want it to go over her finger. There. Okay. And I want her hair. Okay, so I am just going to hit Q again. Sorry. I'm going to hit Q again, and now I've got my subject outline. I'm going to hit Command J to put that on its own layer. Go back down to my background copy and go to File and Place Embedded. And I've got my ripped up already, and I'm just going to grab a red heart and hit Place. And that is, look at that, it's almost perfect already. So I am going to just bring this up and bring this down a tad. And I'm going to hit enter. So as you can see, we have some things over here that we need to take care of. So I am going to grab my clone tool. I'm just hitting Option. It's going to make me, all right, I am going to cut this down. All right. Going to flatten this down. Excuse me, I'm going to hit Command J, and now I'm going to grab my clone tool. And I'm just going to clone some red in here. Excuse me. I don't want to take away the shadow here. All right. I'm just going to grab a mixer brush tool. I'm just going to try to mix these colors in here because the cloning isn't working. It's taking away that natural shadow, which is what is so amazing about these, because they have the actual shadow because they were truly ripped paper. And that's it. So you have her kind of popping out. So I have another one, which I thought this was so cute. And literally the same thing. I just put her on her own layer, and I popped the Christmas tree behind her. How cute is that for if you wanted to do something for Christmas that was different? Whitney did a really good job on this one. I've never seen a Christmas tree. I thought it was so cute. So 2 really easy ways of putting them in front of it. If you wanted to, I can show you. These are real easy. I literally just, if I take that away, it's literally, I just put it over the top of them. There was no cutting of my subject whatsoever. It's just putting it right over the top. Same with this one. Oop, I put a texture on that one. So those are 2 ways. You can just put it on top, or if you want your subject to pop a little bit more, you can select your subject, and then they would be on top of the overlay.
Hi everyone, it's Whitney. I am adding to Tiffany's really great tutorial on adding our rip paper overlays to show you how to add them to the background so they look like they're behind your subject, and also how to change colors of them in case you want a more custom color to one of the rip paper overlays. Okay, so let's start with this image here. I actually shot my subject on a pink seamless paper, and this is the same exact paper I used to make some of the pink ripped paper overlays in the studio. I actually went into the studio and I ripped them and I took pictures of them, and that's what we have in our listing. And I also changed some colors changed the colors of them in Photoshop and gave you some extra colors like the blues and the greens. Well, no, the greens were actual paper, but the other colors. So this one's going to be fairly easy because I'm using the same color. So let's get started on adding a rip paper overlay to behind your subject. So I am going to just drag one of the rip paper overlays onto my subject here, and I'm going to size it and make it look like how I want it to look. You can even rotate it so you get like a nice, you can even make it, yeah, like that. Like I like that because it frames her out. All right. So now you can see that looks like it's just pasted on top, but we're going to fix that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to pull my subject out in front of that rip paper overlay. So there's a couple ways you can do this. The first and easiest way is just select the layer with your subject on it, hit the select subject tool, which is right here, and then just click the select subject button. This is going to find your subject in that layer, and it's going to select her. Now you can say it didn't do like a perfect job. It selected these things, even though we want these to be out in front, but it didn't select the dress perfect, but it's fine. It selected the part that we actually want to cut out perfectly. So we're good with that. If you want a more detailed select subject, you can click this arrow and you can hit the cloud and it will give you a more detailed result. It'll take a little longer, but it will give you better results. What you can also do is once you get a selection, you can hit select and mask, and there is a refine tool in there that you can play with that will help you select out like fuzzy and hairy things. But I think we're good. Okay, so now I'm going to click up on my rip paper overlay. I'm going to hold down the Alt button on Windows and the Option button on Mac, and I'm going to click my mask button. This is going to take that selection, it's going to invert it. So now if I didn't hold down Alt or Option, it would have given me the opposite mask where the subject was selected and not the background. Okay, so perfect. She is now on top of my rip paper overlay, but it still doesn't look perfect. So let's fix it up a little bit. I'm going to choose a brush. I'm going to make sure it's on black. It already is. And I'm going to choose a low flow or opacity, like 10% is good. And I'm going to go around those edges, those hard edges, and I'm just going to mask them out. Just going to blend it in a little bit to my rip paper overlay, or to my background. Okay, so now you can see that it's looking better, but it's still not perfect. Oop, I just pulled the guide down. So I want to make it blend a little bit more. So what you can see is it's lighter in some areas. It's lighter than my background was. So let's darken it down a bit. So I'm going to add a curves layer to it. And now I want to clip that curves layer to only my Rip Paper overlay. So I'm going to click this button right here, which clips it down to my Rip Paper. I can also hold down the Alter Option button and hover my cursor in between these two layers and then clip it. There's an arrow, there's a slash mark through the arrow, and that's going to unclip it because it's already clipped. Okay, and now I'm going to darken down my Rip Paper overlay a little bit. Ooh, that's looking really good. I actually like that it's darker now than that background. But I don't like that these are so like glowing pink. So I'm going to invert my mask. I'm going to hit Control or Command I to invert it. And now I'm going to use my brush on white. You can hit X to toggle between it and just color where I kind of want it, not kind of, but where I want it darkened down, which is just along the edges. And that way it won't darken my shadows here to that bright, ugly pink that we were seeing. So you can get as detailed with this as you want. You can also play with your color blend modes to see if that gives you a better result than just masking it in. And you can also use blend if you are familiar with that. That works well. But as you can see, because it's clipped to my Rip Paper overlay, it's not affecting my subject or my background at all. Just that. So that darkens that down. You can see it's not perfect up here, but you can get it a little more perfect. All right, so that's how you add it to the background. Now that was a really simple example because my background and my Rip Paper overlay were almost the same color. So now I want to show you how you can customize it a little bit. So I'm going to blow these away, and I'm just going to add a white one. This is the same exact overlay, but it's white. Oh wait, no, I didn't do the heart. Sorry. It's not the same exact overlay. It's a different overlay. It's our heart overlay. I'm going to size it so it looks good on my subject. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Click the layer with my subject, hit select subject, select my subject, click my Rip Paper overlay, hold down Alt or Option, and then click the mask tool. Okay, perfect. Now again, I'm going to click my mask, going to get a brush. I'm just going to soften up. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, I'm on white. I want to be on black. On black, make sure you're on black. I'm just going to soften up that hard edge. I could probably go a little harder than 10% there, but that's fine. Okay, now I want to change color of this Rip Paper overlay to match the pink of my background. So the first thing I like to do when I'm changing a background color is I like to just throw a solid color fill layer on there. Okay, so the first thing you do is you go to solid color fill layer and throw it on. You can see it chose a black, which is not what I want, but I can't choose the exact color because it's just covered up my picture. So I'm going to turn off the opacity. I'm going to double click on my color, and then I'm going to choose the color I want. You can see now it chose that pink. Okay, I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to make this color, the color blend mode. All right, now you can see I made everything that pink color. So what do I want to do? I want to clip it. Well, there's no clip button on a solid color fill layer. I don't know why. So now you can hold down Alt or Option and hover your cursor in between like I showed you before, and that will clip it just to your Rip Paper overlay. Now you can see that that color is still too light. That's because I'm doing this to a white background, and it's actually pretty hard to change a white background to a color. White and black are the hardest. It's pretty easy to change other colors, but I chose the white one purposefully so I can show you different methods of changing your background color. So this is why I put that solid color fill layer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gradient map. I love gradient maps. They're really cool. So again, this made it to my whole image. I just want to clip it to my my ripped paper overlay. It's kind of a tongue twister. So I'm going to clip it there. Now I'm going to double click on the gradient map. It's all stretched out because I'll show you why I stretched out in a minute. Okay, because this will change the shadow colors to the highlight colors. Now these are my shadow colors and these are my highlight colors, and I have no midpoint set here. It just gives you something in between those. That's why you see black to white. Okay, so I want my shadow color to be like a dark pink, like a really dark pink. So you can see now those black areas are turning pink. Dark reds works too. Hit okay. My highlight can be white because I think that is going to be white, or maybe a light pink would be fine too. Just give it a little bit of a less blown out look. And now we don't have a really great midpoint color. So let's put a midpoint. We just click on the bottom of that gradient and we're going to choose, let's just try this pink. Oh, it's not choosing that pink. It's choosing our whip paper overlay, which was white. Okay. And now we're just going to click around until we find a pretty close pink. Now don't worry that if it's not perfect right now, that's okay. And I'll show you why in a second. Okay, so that's close. So let's hit okay. Okay, now we're going to change the blending mode of our gradient map. And now we're working with a white background. So usually I like to use the darken modes on a white background. Sometimes I like pin light, but that's usually on a colored background. Okay, so darken looks all right. Multiply looks a little too contrasty. Color burns way too contrasty. Linear burns, meh. So I kind of like darken. Okay, so now what we can do, darken or darker would have worked well. We can go back in and we can tweak our gradient map again. Okay, so now what do you see? You see that it's just way too bright, which means we have too many highlights. So all this area up here is highlights. So I'm going to slide my midtone color closer to my highlight so I have less highlight. Now this little diamond you see here, this is the blend between these two colors. So I'm going to change the blend and decrease my highlight even a little bit more. And I'm just going to mess with it. Now I'm kind of feeling like this is getting too dark. So again, I'm going to adjust my colors. I think that looks pretty good. You can see you could spend a lot of time in here. And now I'm going to hit okay and okay. So here we are, we're close. I just still feel like it's a little too bright, like these highlight areas are too bright. So let's add a curves layer on there to darken it down. I'm going to clip it just so it's on, just so it's clipped to my whip paper overlay. Okay, so now this is making it too contrasty. So let's invert our mask by hitting Control I, getting a white brush, and then just putting it on the areas that we want. Is just where it's a little too bright. Okay. And again, we can go down to our mask here and we can take a black and we can take the edges off this too. So it matches our background a little bit more. And we just have the rip paper there. All right, so this is definitely not perfect, but you can tweak it. I would really say play with those blend modes and tweak those colors in your gradient map to get it perfect. But that looks pretty good. I think my highlights are a little bit bright. I would go in and probably darken my highlights down a little bit. But that's how you do it. That's how you change the color of the rip paper overlays, and that's how you put them in the background. So I hope this helped and enjoy.